I think we need to really quickly talk about Daichi Kamada. I wrote an article this week about his potential future, and where he could potentially go to. And this is on Forbes. I am doing a huge feature this week for the Substack on Kolomuani, so stay tuned on that. I think especially what you said about a number nine, because I don't actually think he is a center forward. I tend to
Mm.
agree with you there. I think he's more at home almost, even though he's quite tall and um, he's very fast and he's almost better off almost playing off the wing a little bit. And this is where you've seen him being very, very strong, right? And actually, probably also one of the reasons why they've been able to quite well compensate for Philip Kostic's departure. Um, but Kamada is an interesting one because I do wonder what's going to happen with him next. I know in September they gave him a huge offer to renew his contract, but he plays like that against the likes of Borussia Dortmund. He has a market value of 22 million euros at the moment. I suspect that's going to go up. He's playing well in the Champions League. He's playing well for Frankfurt in the Bundesliga. He's going to be at the World Cup where he's going to play against Germany and Spain. You know what the World Cup does to players' market values if you have a good performance against one of those big teams. Let's say he does
Mm.
score against Germany or Spain. You just know you can add another 5 million to it. But he's a free agent at the end of the year.
Mm.
So you almost wonder, right? Because there was links to Benfica and Everton. I think he's probably outgrown those teams by now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't really see the point in him. It would feel to me like a sideways move for him to move to Benfica, unless he harbours some great unknown intrigue in living in Portugal, which certainly wouldn't begrudge him. It's a lovely place,
Mm.
but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's it's a really interesting. I think the interesting thing about Kamada is that he's come through and become a star for Frankfurt as the club itself has kind of moved up from tier to tier.
Mm.
A few years ago, you could arguably say, well, look, he's playing for a team in the bottom half of the Bundesliga. He maybe has aspirations of playing in Europe. Maybe he wants to make a bit more money. Maybe he wants to play in a league that back home gets far more exposure. So you could say, okay, maybe an Everton or a Southampton or someone like that, where he's maybe more of an established player for his national team. But he's now at Frankfurt, who are playing in the Champions League, who've just won the Europa League, and who are knocking on the door for a top four finish this season. So, as you said, the clubs that have been linked with them in the past, Everton, perfect example of this, where maybe a year or two ago,
Mm.
Everton would have been a step up from Frankfurt, and financially, I've no doubt that they probably still are, but he must be looking at Everton and probably wondering, well, Frank Lampard's trying to rebuild that squad there. Up until very recently, they were struggling.
Mm.
Are they going to be able to turn things around? Are they going to be fighting relegation for the next 2 or 3 seasons? So I wonder if his kind of delay in making his plans clear to Frankfurt simply come down to the fact that he maybe hasn't had the kind of offers that would push him out the door or pull him
Mm.
out the door rather, compared to staying at Frankfurt. And I guess we just kind of have to wait and see. It's maybe going to be a bit like the Philip Kostic situation where he might have to wait around for a club like Juventus to come along. And I'm not saying that Kostic made the right decision there because
Mm.
Juventus are in all sorts of bother right now, but he might be sitting around waiting for a top half Premier League side or maybe a team in Spain to come along. A team that's a notable improvement on Frankfurt because I'm not sure Everton and Benfica offer that right now.
No, I don't think they do. And I think the other thing too is that you have to kind of look at what happened to players that left Frankfurt for quote unquote greener pastures. You know,
Mm.
the vast majority of them did not improve their situation. Um, Luka Jovic comes to mind, right? He's now at Fiorentina, where he's finally regaining his form. But he could. Fiorentina is a club that doesn't even play in the Champions League. There's no
Mm.
disrespect to Fiorentina. I love Florence. I know I love those jerseys. It's a legendary club, but it is essentially the Frankfurt of Italy, isn't it? In a nicer city. In fairness, I give them that. Fiorentina is lovely, but he hasn't really exactly improved his career by going to Real Madrid. Ante Rebic, what is he up to these days? Is he still at Milan? So,
I
you
think
know,
so, yeah.
the fact that I don't even know what he's doing. Yeah. So uh, then there we go to Sebastian Haller. West Ham did not work out for him. He made a step backwards then to go to Ajax. Of course, we don't know what will happen once he regains his full fitness. All indication is that things are going well for him. So fingers crossed. But it took him a few years after leaving Frankfurt to actually go to a club that's bigger than Frankfurt, right? In terms of income, in terms of visibility. So, that wasn't exactly a move that right away worked out either. And Philip Kostic, as you said, is now in Europa League hell with Juventus, and Serie A is a disaster, a coaching change and all that. And so didn't exactly work out for him either. So you almost, if you are at Frankfurt and it looks like, because they made Kostic a huge offer financially, right, to stay at the club, that money is now earmarked for someone like Daichi Kamada. And you almost wonder, if you are Daichi Kamada, wouldn't you be better off to continue the journey with this club? Because I think that to reverse this, Frankfurt have shown and have provided the evidence that, okay, well, you're leaving, that's sad. We would, of course, like to keep you. We're just going to find this other guy in the lower reaches of, I don't know, the French league or Denmark or Spain or wherever they go shopping, and just make him do this exact same thing, because this is a club that's is greater than the sum of all of its parts. And you almost wonder sometimes with these guys making career choices that they don't realize that what they have is actually very good, because they're playing at a club that's actually accentuating all the best of these players. So I'm actually not sure like a move away is a good career move for Daichi Kamada.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a number of cautionary tales, and I guess it maybe comes down to what's happening with Goetze, doesn't it? Because I did kind of wonder whether he was the kind of successor to Kamada, or whether, he's been brought in to kind of play alongside him. And so far, they've played really well together. And it's that kind of signing that can potentially kind of entice a player like Kamada to stay put, especially if it means that they're, okay, maybe it's a bizarre week to talk about this when they've just lost to Dortmund, but if they can really make a push for the top four, then, and potentially another spot in the Champions League next season, then that is huge, and that's exactly that's the kind of stuff that Kostic continuously talked about when he was weighing up whether to leave Frankfurt or not, and the main thing was whether they're playing in the Champions League. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see who's linked with them, who's made an offer for him, and whether they can offer a better sporting project, because as you mentioned, in the players who have left Frankfurt in recent seasons, it's very hard to find a better sporting project, especially with Oliver Glasner right there right now, who's a very good tactician, whether he can find another head coach that can get the best out of him.
So I've been told by a reliable source that they have signed another attacking midfielder already for the winter. So who knows?
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm still working exactly on what's going on there. So apparently he's coming from the MLS, but we'll see. Something to keep an eye on. Something to keep an eye on. No, it's not Ricardo Pepi. I have someone in mind, but let me do some more digging on this. Ricardo Pepi. That got me out of my concept here for a second.